Counselor Siomo. Counselor Flaherty.
Here.
Counselor Jackson. Counselor Lamartina. Counselor Linehan.
Here.
Counselor McCarthy.
Here.
Counselor Murphy. Counselor O'Malley. Counselor Presley. Counselor Wu. Counselor Yancey. Counselor Zachem. Mr. President, we do have a quorum.
I've been informed by the clerk that a quorum is present. I would ask at this time for all councilors and guests to please rise. I will ask Councilor Flaherty to come to the podium to introduce today's clergy. After the invocation is delivered, I would ask all members and guests to remain standing as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flaherty, you have the podium.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the pleasure today to introduce Imam Abdullah Farouk. He's a native Bostonian. He's been the Imam at the mosque for the praising of Allah 20 years. And for those that don't know, it's the oldest mosque in the city, just off of Shawmut Ave. He's also served as prison chaplain for the Massachusetts Department of Corrections for 15 years and as the Muslim spiritual advisor, and has also served as chaplain of Northeastern University for the last 15 years as well. Imam Farouk has developed family-based community programming for our youth by helping to establish youth camps, a father-son program, an archery club, a basketball team, which has now won 2 national titles. His goal is to educate others, to work together to establish and maintain relationships with people, goodwill, and to serve the needs of the humanity in a God-centered way of life in Massachusetts and throughout America. So a warm welcome for our friend Imam Abdul Farouk, who will offer today's words of wisdom and offer prayer. Welcome.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
And assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you. I hope that we can all be graced with the peace that is so necessary at this time of conflict, global conflict. I come today to first praise Almighty God. We want to give him the glory, since we're going to be calling upon him for his mercy and his guidance, and for these 12 men and women who are part of the city council who governs our finances and our affairs and our legislation. I ask that God would open up the gates of his mercy to their personal families' affairs. You know, I want you all to be satisfied and saved in your personal affairs while you govern over us and look after our affairs to govern this great and noble city, the city of Boston. I'm glad that he said that I was born here, and I'm very honored to continue to be a citizen of this great city and of this great nation as well. I pray for our president and our new governor. I pray for our new mayor, and I pray for this council, and in particular for Councilor Flaherty for inviting me to pray for us. And I ask sincerely that God opens up the gates of his mercy. Mercy is so important, and that he guides us. Guidance we seem to be bereft of guidance. We don't know which way to go or what to do. So, and when I pray today, and I'm going to make it brief, when I pray today, I want you to join with me, because I don't want to be here praying for you. I want for us to pray together. This is what we need to do. We need to join our hearts and our minds and our hands in the affairs of governing our city and keeping our affairs straight. So I ask God, besides whom there is no other God, the ever living and self-subsisting, to guide us to the straight path in this life, and give us the wherewithal to maintain our affair in a very troubled world, and to make this city a glowing lamp of light for all this nation and the world, because of how we live together, work together, to bring about the peace that is so necessary at this time of conflict and discord in this world. I make it brief like that, and I say this in the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, the ever-living and self-subsisting God, the God of Noah, the God of Abraham, the God of Moses and Jesus and Solomon and David, and the God of Muhammad. He is the God of us all. God, have mercy on us, guide us, and protect us. Ameen.
Thank you, Imam Farouk, for your kind words and an inspiring message. Councilor Flaherty will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilor Flaherty, and thank you, Eamon Farouk. If there are no corrections to be made, the minutes of last week's meeting will stand approved. Seeing, hearing no objections, the minutes are so approved. Councilor Siomo?
Thank you, Mr. President. Communications from His Honor the Mayor.
Thank you. Docket number 0728, message in order fixing the date of the 2015 preliminary municipal election pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 54, Section 103P.
Council President Linehan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to stand and ask for suspension and passage of this docket, and I just want to make okay. And I wanted to just say a few words first. So in September this year, there are 4 Tuesdays, and the 29th is too close by law to the November election for us to use that particular Tuesday for a preliminary election. It needs to be 6 weeks, and that is only 5. The other 2 Tuesdays are 2 very holy and spiritual days for our friends from the Jewish religious community, both Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. The 2 consecutive Tuesdays in the middle of the month. So the only Tuesday that is available is the 8th, and it's incumbent upon us as the Boston City Council to approve this date for us to execute the preliminary election on September 8th. We could possibly have the election earlier, but if anyone has any, particular questions of me, that's why this is being proposed at this time. Through the chair, I'd take any questions.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Council Presley.
Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, we do want to ensure that every resident has the opportunity to vote. But it's really unfortunate that we only have really 2 bad choices, moving to the Tuesday after the Labor Day holiday or changing the day of the week, which would require a massive undertaking in terms of voter education and also a trickle-down effect in many other ways. So based on these options, I do believe Tuesday the 8th is the better one, but it really does beg a larger question, and how do we ensure that we are making registering to vote and voting as easy as possible? So this situation really does remind us that we should be making every effort to increase access to voting by allowing early and absentee voting for any reason for all registered voters. You may remember in 2014, Governor Patrick passed a law which allows for early voting in biennial statewide elections, starting 11 business days before an election and ending 2 business days before Election Day. We do have a charter reform committee, and I think these are the sorts of things that we should be exploring in that committee, because that was a state law that does not apply to Boston. So, I really do believe this begs a larger question, but this is not an optimal scenario. But based on the options before us, I do support the move to September 8th, but do believe it raises a larger question in terms of city charter reform, same-day voter registration, and early voting. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilor Yancey.
Thank you very much. Through you to the President, what would happen if this body failed to act on this issue today? I became aware of this situation earlier this morning when I, like many of our colleagues, signed up for the election, and the officials told me that we're changing it from I guess it was September 22nd to September 8th. And as the previous speaker mentioned, that's the day after a Monday holiday. And that may discourage some people from participating, or at least being as focused on the election as would otherwise be the case. So my question really has to do with the timing of the vote today, and what would be the implication of failing to suspend and pass, which would require a unanimous vote on the part of this body, at least in terms of allowing the matter to be voted on.
Councilor Yancey, through the chair. Councilor Lenahan.
Sign up for nomination papers if you aren't aware of that right now, and I'm sure you all are. The first day to sign up for nomination papers, but at a certain time, if we back this up too much, then all of these dates need to be adjusted also. I don't know what the specifics are, but I was told by the elections officer that that they might have to address the calendar here, because there's a certain amount of days between when nomination papers need to be filed, need to be approved, and an election to occur. And so that could back these dates up so that nomination papers might have to be issued sooner and all the like. So it would have an impact on the overall schedule if it could. I shouldn't say it will. It could. And so doing this, we received a letter from the mayor and the elections department based on preliminary discussions about recognizing the two Jewish holidays. And the only date that was available in September was the 8th, which backs up to Labor Day. I don't know if that answers your questions.
Councilor Yancey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Back in 1983, the municipal preliminary elections was put off until October, because there were some issues concerning the district lines. That was the first election of the current system of hybrid system of at-large and district representation. So my question still is, do we have to do it on the 8th, or can we find another date, perhaps in October? It was October, I believe it was October 25th. It was very late when we had a preliminary election in 1983. Of course, I speak from experience. So the question is, what would prevent us from doing it in October versus early in September?
Yep.
Chair recognizes Councilor Linehan.
So as I indicated earlier, there's supposed to be 6 weeks from the date of the final election. By statute, legal statute, state statute says that that's the case. So the 29th is not available. So we couldn't go any later based on that statute. As I reflect back on that time, and I was not here in the body, there was special laws were addressed to affect that election due to the redistricting of the 1983 district maps, and the district's first time district representation occurred. So it's uniquely different. If we don't act on this, we can put it in committee, and it can affect, if we don't act on this today, we could put it in committee, we could have a discussion, but it in likelihood could back up the schedule itself, both from the fact that we need to change the schedule if we're going to do an earlier date, and we don't meet for another 2 weeks, so it gets pretty precarious. The other obvious thing that we could do is we could hold the election on the 22nd. I mean, this is to change the fact that the election would be held on the 22nd.
Councilor Yancey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I certainly want us to be very respectful of the high holidays for our Jewish constituents. I think we should do that when we're confronted with this situation for other religions as well, if that occurs for But at this time, Mr. Chairman, in light of the explanation I have received and in light of the fact that we're not going to meet next Wednesday and we're pushing the calendar back even further, I join my president in urging suspension and passage today.
Thank you, Councilor Yancey. Chair recognizes Councilor Zachem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise to thank Council President Linehan and Mayor Walsh. As someone who will be celebrating these holidays, it would be, it's a great sign, I think, of respect and inclusion that we're discussing this in this manner. So I really do appreciate Council President's leadership and Mayor Walsh's on this. I did speak to quite a few folks in the Jewish community about this issue before this meeting today, and the consensus was, and from folks far more learned than I am in the ways of our traditions and religion, that it would really be quite discouraging, and quite a few folks would be unable to participate in the elections if they were on the current date. So I really do appreciate my colleagues' interest and discussion on this, and hopefully we will be suspending and passing this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zachem. Councilor Jackson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm thankful, and I think it's a significant day in the city of Boston, where we have a day of remembrance, but it's called One Boston Day, and it's a day of inclusion, and a day that we show who and what we are as a city. And I think this is simply doing the right thing, and it literally in the same vein of what is going on in terms of our remembrance of folks. We need to do right by every group in the city of Boston, and include rather than exclude folks based on issues such as this. So I think as someone who actually got to celebrate Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur for 12 years consecutively when I was in elementary and high school, I think it's, again, simply the right thing and speaks to the character of our city. Unfortunately, the dates will have to change. I think we do want to make sure that the election department notices folks around the changes that will occur in terms of the period of time that you'll have to register. I think there's a great deal that has to happen in that space. And I, through you to the president, would ask that the president make sure with the mayor's office and with Mayor Walsh that the resources are there to make sure that folks know that there's going to be a different cutoff date for their ability to register to vote. Otherwise, this is absolutely the right thing to do. I wholeheartedly support it, and I will be supporting President Linehan on this.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Councilor Linehan moves suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0728. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Docket 0728 has passed. Reports of public officers and others.
Docket number 0729, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Mary Jo Brogna as a member of the Boston Employment Commission for a term expiring August 13, 2016.
Docket 0729 will be placed on file.
Docket numbers,
Yeah, could you read docket 0730 to 0732?
thank you, Mr. President. Docket number 0730, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting of March 25th, 2015. Docket number 0731, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its April 1st, 2015 meeting. And docket number 0732, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding actions taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting of April 8th, 2015.
Docket 0730 through 0732 will be placed on file.
Docket number 0733, notice was received from Councilor LaMartina in accordance with the public meeting laws advising that he will be hosting a briefing for city councilors regarding the status of urban renewal goals and related community meetings.
Docket 0733 will be placed on file. Now, Madam Clerk, matters recently heard for possible action.
Docket number 0553, message and order authorizing the police commissioner to accept and expend the FY 2015 Sustained Traffic Enforcement Programs known as STEP grant fund of $295,741.36 awarded by the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security Highways Safety Division for the purpose of supporting the data-driven approaches to crime and traffic safety in Boston.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Public Safety, Councilor Murphy, on docket 0553.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Safety held a hearing on Monday of this past week, the 13th of April, on docket 0553. I was joined by the Vice Chair, Councilor Mike Flaherty, and Councilor Tim McCarthy also made an appearance. And we learned that this $295,741 grant is funded, comes to us from the State Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, the Highway Safety Division of that agency. And it's for, it's the acronym STEP, is STEP, Sustained Traffic Enforcement Program, is the state's way of assisting us with dangerous intersections, to policing and to controlling traffic around 10 dangerous intersections in the city. The city messenger, Ron Cobb, has a list. He's going to provide it to anybody. But those intersections are Mass Ave and Melnea Cass Boulevard, Beacon Street and Park Drive, Columbus Ave at Heath Street, Commonwealth Ave at Harvard, Columbia Road at Washington Street, Columbus Ave and Mass Ave, Huntington Ave and Mass Ave, Alston Street and Commonwealth Ave, and Albany Street and Mass Ave. And there's $173,000 those dollars going into overtime and personnel to be out in those dangerous intersections, calming traffic. There is an additional $122,106 to go to two data analysts, which are funded in total by the state grant and will be operating out of One Schroeder Plaza. So I urge passage at this time so that program can get out in the into those dangerous intersections where it's needed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Murphy moves acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0553. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0553 has passed.
Docket number 0266, order for hearing regarding FAA changes using runways 27, 33 left, and 4, L, but they're left, at Logan Airport.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Special Committee on Transportation, Public Infrastructure, and Planning and Investment, Councilor Zakim, on docket 0266.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a very informative hearing earlier this week with quite a few, several dozen concerned residents, as well as representatives from Massport and the city's Chief of Environment, Austin Blackman. It was the sponsors, obviously, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Wu were there. We were also joined by Councilor Murphy. And what seemed to me is that in the last couple of years, there have been a dramatic increase in noise from flights in and out of Logan Airport and the southwestern part of the city. We heard quite a bit from residents, also from Milton. We were joined by Representative Timilty of Milton and the selectman from Milton as well. It's certainly a larger problem than just in Boston, but I found it very informative. During the public testimony, we heard from quite a few very informed people speaking at length, 10, 20 minutes at a time, about their experiences. But it was incredibly informative. I'd like to defer to Councilor McCarthy as the sponsor to say a little more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zakim. Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to thank Councilor Zakim for running a great hearing and his patience with a lot of people who did a lot of homework. And sometimes I know we have these hearings, we try to keep people short, but these are people who have studied this issue for a long, long time. We've had professors from BU and scientists from our own neighborhood complaining about these issues. The key to this order was the FAA, who did not show up. Massport was here. They answered all the questions that they could. Some answers were debatable, to be very honest with you. The reality is this: as a counselor in the city of Boston, and as a person who grew up in Boston, and we all live here now, and we all represent our people, there's a reality. Planes are flying out of Massport, and they're not flying over all the neighborhoods. And I don't mean just all the neighborhoods of Boston. I mean all the neighborhoods of Massachusetts, like Newton and Brookline and Wellesley. They don't fly over there. The rates of their flights over those neighborhoods are a stark contrast to what they do over our neighborhoods. Now, you can look at that whatever way you want, and you can place that phrase or statement whatever way you want. Fact of the matter is, they talk about the way the air flows from the north to the south and south to the west and all this mumbo jumbo, but the reality is they don't fly over those neighborhoods. During that hearing, I read an article from the Hingham government webpage, if you will, and it was a bright and fluffy piece about how, haven't you noticed that the planes have stopped over Hingham? What a wonderful thing for Hingham. Well, you know what? Hingham people fly probably more than most people in Boston, all right? They deserve the noise just like we deserve the noise. So it's not about us against them. It's about sharing the cost of not only the noise, but the ultrafine particles that fall from the sky. It's about Massport and FAA flying in at lower levels than they're required to. They should be coming over our houses at 3,000 feet or more. Sometimes they're at 1,700 and sometimes as low as 1,250 feet. I've had complaints from Jamaica Plain and West Roxbury and Matt O'Malley's districts, and from all of your districts. People saying that they can hear the flaps going down. It feels like people are waving to you as they come over. So we're going to put this into committee. I'd like to put this into committee, and then we're going to take another crack at the FAA. And then I'd also like to have everybody join me in making sure that our federal officials, our elected officials, are very well aware that this is a subject that I certainly am not going to let go away. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McCarthy. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to commend Councilor McCarthy and Councilor Wu for filing this order and say that I was active and engaged. Thank the chair, Councilor Zakem, for holding the committee hearing. And in picking up on what my colleague from Hyde Park just said about the town of Hingham having a wonderful time because planes don't fly over there. We should give them planes, Mr. President. And we should give Brookline some planes too, and Needham and Newton and all of those people. That what happened in the hearing was that Massport folks said to us that indeed the flight paths have changed because of a lawsuit. And some of those aforementioned committees joined and sued to get the planes to stop coming over their airspace. So now it's a case of environmental justice. The poor people, the inner city neighborhoods, those of us that live inside of 128 bear the unfair burden of having all of the flights. And there were some of the exhibits that were put on. There's, I think it's runway 422, 4L. And they take off and they kind of come over the Leather District. And then they hook a left at like South Station. And they go right down through the South End, Roxbury, Franklin Park, Roslindale, Jamaica Plain, West Roxbury, Hyde Park. And it's like 97% of them come that way. And then there's another 3% that go off one way or the other. And you look at the visual cue, and it's like all being foisted upon us and all of our residents. And it's not just noise. It's, as Councilor McCarthy said, the fine particulate matter that comes out of airline fuel. And it's one of the reasons, I think, why Boston has such a high asthma rate in inner city neighborhoods. So it's something I said to the folks from Massport in picking up on what he said about the lawsuit changed it. I said, well, from now on, you should think of us here as plaintiffs in the future. Because if that's the way we have to go to change it, we should go that way. But I'm hopeful that the FAA will not turn a deaf ear to us a second time and perhaps Councilor McCarthy's suggestion of engaging our congressmen, which fund the FAA, might get them to be a little bit more compliant and work with us to try to spread some of this misery around. We have a big airport. Nobody's saying close the airport. I know what East Boston and South Boston go through representing those communities as well. But it's like every neighborhood of Boston right now is impacted by this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to thank my good colleague and friend from District 5, Councilor McCarthy, as well as the at-large councilor, my dear friend Councilor Wu, for their leadership on this. I was ill on Monday and unable to attend the hearing, but I proudly co-sponsored this hearing order when it first came up and, want to remain engaged and thank them for their efforts. This very simply is an important quality of life issue. And those of us who live and represent Southwest Boston, we have seen a dramatic increase over the last couple of years. I mean, this is something that people are talking about. This is something that we are living with each and every day. So I am heartened by the efforts of this body to address it, to change it. I am reminded of a famous quote from an illustrious Bostonian who once said, "We all give, we all gain." And I think that that's a way that we need to approach this as we're going forward, looking with surrounding communities. This is a city. We have an airport. We recognize that. We need it. It's a very, very busy and well-traveled airport. But we want to make sure that those that not only live in the most surrounding environs in East Boston and South Boston, but as we get into the outer neighborhoods, aren't shouldering all the burden on this as well. So look forward to continuing with these efforts and thank the councilman for his leadership on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Presley.
For his articulation there of the extent of the problem, and Councilor McCarthy and Councilor Wu for their leadership in this space on what really is an environmental justice issue, a quality of life issue, a noise pollution issue. And so I just commend you and just thank you for your leadership in this space.
Thank you, Councilor Presley. Councilor Yancey.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Unfortunately, I was out of town and was not able to attend this hearing. But when we landed into Boston late last evening, the person sitting next to me told me that he was from Boston. I probed him a bit further, of course, and asked, well, what part of Boston? He said, well, south of Boston. I said, well, so you're not from the city of Boston? He said, no, he's from Scituate, but he's claiming Boston as his home. That's not unusual, as you know, Mr. President. Many years ago, this body tackled the issue of expanding Logan Airport. Many of us, I think the majority, if not all members of the City Council, challenged the decision to expand and add another runway in East Boston. We thought that East Boston was under enough pressure as it was, and didn't feel it was fair to them or even other neighborhoods. I believe that it's right that Massport does offer some programs for remediation for East Boston and South Boston. They deserve it. But I also believe that if they're going to continue concentrating their flights over the communities of East Boston, South Boston, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Hyde Park, South End, Jamaica Plain, that perhaps Massport should do more in offering remediation to those communities. I don't think it's fair that those communities are forced to bear the burden. And incidentally, when that lawsuit occurred and Massport had to come up with a new flight plan, they looked specifically at Franklin Park and said, well, no one lives in Franklin Park. Unfortunately, you have to fly over hundreds of thousands of people before you get to that small patch of land called Franklin Park. Total disregard, and I say disrespect, for those communities under that flight path. So I like to commend the authors of this hearing order and ask that we continue to pursue some real remedies, either change the flight route or offer some more serious remediation to those communities who are suffering from the burden of that airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Yancey. Councilor Jackson.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I actually have the honor of living in the house that I grew up in when I was a kid. And so I've literally seen a change in the last 2 to 3 years because the one piece that has happened to me is my sight has gotten worse. So when I actually look up and I can see letters on the back of a plane, that means either the plane has gotten closer. I know that my sight has not gotten better, Mr. President. Again, this all can't land in our backyard. Roxbury and Dorchester have disproportionate rates of asthma, 6 times the rate of the state. This can't all land literally and the proverbial side of it in our backyard. The FAA needs to heed the call of Councilor McCarthy and Councilor Wu and come and sit and be held accountable for the plans that they have put forward that are disrupting our neighborhoods in our communities. It's simply the right thing to do. We are, yes, the hub in the city of Boston, but we all have rights. And I want to thank Councilor LaMartina for the valiant efforts in protecting East Boston. And I did not know the weight of that until now. And I think we all need to band together to make sure that we're ensuring that these neighborhoods and communities aren't left out. We appreciate our friends in the suburban communities, but we will definitely continue to fight together to make sure that people in the city of Boston get their just due relative to this. So thank you so much. And again, and I want to thank Councilor McCarthy and also Councilor Zakin. We are better as a body with some of the new folks who, as well as Councilor Wu, who are on this body. These types of issues and this type of veracity, I think, shows that we are better as a body with the new members. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Docket 0266 will remain in the Special Committee on Transportation, Public Infrastructure Planning and Investment. Could you read dockets 0662 through 0680, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. President. Docket number 0662 through 0664. Orders for FY16 operating budget, including annual appropriation and tax order, annual appropriation for the school department, and appropriation for other post-employment benefits known as OPEB. Docket number 0665 through docket number 0680. Orders for the FY16 capital budget, including loan orders and lease and purchase agreements. Go ahead.
Dockets 0662 through 0680 will remain in the Committee on Ways and Means.
I'll do together.
Yes.
Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Docket number 0682. Message and order authorizing the Mayor's Office of Tourism to reestablish in accordance with General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, a revolving fund to accept from the fund up to a maximum of $300,000 to fund fiscal year 2016 for the purposes of purchasing goods and services to advance tourism and promote participation in public celebrations. Docket number 0683. Message and order authorizing the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture to reestablish in accordance with General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for a revolving fund of up to the maximum of $300,000 to fund fiscal year 2016 for the purposes of purchasing goods and services to support public art throughout the city of Boston. And docket number 0686. Message and order authorizing the Office of Environmental Energy Services to establish in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, a revolving fund, and to accept from that fund up to a maximum of $100,000 to fund fiscal year 2016 to purchase offsets of greenhouse gas emissions which shall be associated with a portion of the electricity consumed by the city annually, thereby greening a greater percentage of the city's aggregate electricity load.
Dockets 0662 and 0683 and 0686 will remain in the Committee on Ways and Means. Thank you for filling in my absence, Councilor Sioma.
Do you want me to read these last two together?
I don't know, I might walk out.
We'll just start with the first one.
Yep, there you go.
Docket number 0271, ordinance amending the City of Boston Code, ordinances chapter 6-6.6, impoundment of vehicles.
I almost went. Docket 0271 will, Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Through the chair, if the clerk could actually read the second docket, we're going to take the matters together.
I'm sorry.
If, through the chair, if I could ask the clerk to read the second docket 0272, so we can speak on both matters together.
That was her intention. Go ahead.
My pleasure. Docket number 0272, ordinance amending Chapter 17 of the City of Boston Code, ordinances, bodywork and massage industry registration and inspection requirements.
The chair recognizes the chair of the Committee on Government Operations, Councilor Flaherty, on docket 0217 and 0272.
Thank you, Mr. President. We held a very informative hearing yesterday on both dockets, which address ways to combat human trafficking and also support recovery efforts for victims of prostitution. It was an opportunity to expand on the great work that this council did dating back to 2004, and also to showcase the work of the lead sponsor, Council Baker, and also co-sponsor, Council Presley, who, as we know, has done yeoman's work as chair of the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Community. Based on the testimony yesterday from the panel, we want to work on language and possibly hold working sessions for these matters. So at this time, I'm asking both dockets 0271 and 0272 remain in the Committee on Government Operations.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Docket 0271 and 0272 will remain in the Committee on Government Operations. I'm informed by the clerk that there is one late file matter in the hands of the clerk, which in absence of objection will be added to today's agenda. Hearing no objections, the matters are so added. The clerk will read the first late file matter.
From the office of Michelle Wu, Boston City Council. Dear Madam Clerk, I am writing to let you know of my absence from today's meeting of the Boston City Council due to a family medical issue. If you have any questions or would like to discuss this further, please contact me at 617-635-3115. With warm regards and best wishes, sincerely, Michelle Wu, Boston City Councilor at Large.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, is anybody willing to would pull matters from the green sheet? Councilor Sioma, you have the floor.
On page 2, assigned for further action, docket number 0551, and also on page 11 of 22 for the full text.
Same, okay, for the same matter.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, you need to read the roll for the second reading.
I'll read it in.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. In the Committee on Ways and Means, docket number 0551, sponsored by the mayor, message and order approving an appropriation of $1,700,000 for the purpose of paying costs of a feasibility study and schematic design work associated with the renovation or new construction of a facility for the Boston Arts Academy. Upon completion of the feasibility study, the Massachusetts School Building Authority said amount to be expanded under the direction of the Public Facilities Department on behalf of the Boston Public Schools. It was assigned to the committee on March 25th, 2015, a hearing held on March 31st, 2015, first vote taken on April 1st, and assigned for further action.
Councilor Sioma, you want to say anything?
Well, just to remind folks, this is for the feasibility study for the Boston Arts Academy renovation or new construction. Thank you.
Great. Madam Clerk, would you please read the roll?
And this is for the second vote. It received its first vote April 1st. Councilor Baker. Yes. Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Siomo. Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Flaherty. Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Jackson. Counselor Jackson, yes. Counselor Lamatina. Counselor Lamatina, yes. Counselor Linehan.
Yes.
Counselor Linehan, yes. Counselor McCarthy. Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor Murphy. Counselor Murphy, yes. Counselor O'Malley. Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Presley. Counselor Presley, yes. Counselor Wu. Counselor Yancey. Counselor Yancey, yes. And Counselor Zachem. Counselor Zachem, yes. We have a
Number on that, Doc?
docket number 05. President.
Docket 0551 has received its second vote unanimously, and that matter is approved. Anyone else wishing to pull anything from the green sheets? There are no late file consent agenda items. That's great. Before we do memorials, I just want to remind everybody that today is One Boston Day, and that we are doing a moment of silence out on City Hall with the mayor, and that is at 2:49 this afternoon. I'd like to ask all guests and all members to please rise as the council prepares to adjourn today's meeting in the memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Siomo, Evelyn Ware. For Councilor Lamatina, Joe Lamatina. Anthony Gio Vanelio. Josephine Murata. For Councilor McCarthy, Reverend William F. Joyce. Eleanor K. Koshin. For Councilor Presley, Jesse Harris, who is the Conan's grandmother, Councilor Presley's husband, Conan's grandmother. And at that, we'll have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. The chair moves that when the council adjourns today, it does so in memory of the aforementioned individuals. It is scheduled to meet again on Wednesday, April 29th at 12 o'clock noon. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The council is so adjourned.